Welcome back to Truth or Recon. I'm Agent D. Baker, a retired narcotics detective, SWAT team member, and U.S. Navy combat veteran of OEF and OIF. With years of real-world experience in high-stakes environments, I have seen firsthand the dangers that lurk both in our communities and now increasingly online. These conversations can get raw, they can get heavy, and sometimes they may not be suitable for children, so consider this your disclaimer. But if you care about truth, justice, and accountability, then you're in the right. What's up, everybody? Hope everyone's having a good Monday night and staying warm. If you're in the South anyway, it went from being about 90 degrees to below freezing, snowing today. So, and then we had some bad storms last night. Hope everyone made it through all of that safe and sound. Hey, Nancy. Hey, Amanda. So, we were back in trial today. The Ibrahim Yazeed capital case. Aniah, Blanchard. And the state and the defense ended up resting today. So they will have closing arguments tomorrow after lunch. So there's a decent chance that the jury will start deliberating either tomorrow or more than likely Wednesday. Today's testimony was, the first one was by a forensic pathologist. In fact, a expert forensic pathologist that had came up from Florida to assist with the case when Aniah was located. And the next witness after her was the doctor that performed the autopsy. And the only things I'm going to say about those two is very graphic and horrible testimony that there is absolutely zero need to repeat, nor need for anyone to hear. The family, of course, sat through that, and I cannot imagine how they feel, and they definitely need your prayers. It's just, wow. It's horrible. But anyway, the final witness went over some, I think, is the nail in the coffin for Mr. Yazeed. And I'm not even sure. I just got home about 45 minutes ago. So I haven't had a chance to look at anything as far as what the mainstream media is putting out about today. So I'm not even sure if they caught exactly what he was saying or what he said, but I did. And we're going to talk about that. And one thing that I wanted to do, if I would have gotten home earlier, I was wanting to put together a full timeline and go over it tonight. So, since I was so late getting here, I thought maybe we could just all put that timeline together in real time here. And that would give you all a chance to kind of see how my mind works through these things. Because working in investigation, the timeline is very, very important. One of the most important aspects of anything to be able to put the timeline together into a story in a way that puts everything together for an outsider, meaning anyone that's not investigating the case, to be able to look at it and see, oh, okay, that all makes sense. It all makes sense. How everything falls into line, if that makes sense. So, like I said, I figured that may be something that you all would may be interested in us doing tonight. And it shouldn't take us that long. And then we'll probably talk about some other things tonight if we get a chance. I think I skipped over it. So anyway, what I was talking about, the final witness today was a FBI agent that works on the part of their CAST team. If you're not familiar with their CAST team, it's the cellular. Well, I'll read what it stands for: Cellular Analysis Survey Team. And what they do is they're the experts in the cell tower tracking and mapping, or really anything to do with cell phones and those electronics, as well as the social media mapping and tracking, things like that. And they are the best in the business at it. And so that's what he went over, the cell phone mappings of everyone involved in the towers and where all they hit and their locations and the times. And that's a big part of the timeline. So again, I think if we put all this together, everything's really going to make sense. And again, I think his testimony today, the FBI agents, I think is the final nail in the coffin for the suspect, because and we'll get there, and it's going to do you all just like it did me today when I heard it. Of wow, you know how I don't believe in coincidence, and this would be one hell of a coincidence, but it's not a coincidence. And again, you'll see, and it's going to. If you had any thoughts before of, maybe this guy didn't do it, after this, you won't have those thoughts. So let me see. I was trying to open my notes here, and I've apparently got about 30 things open. All right, here we go. All right. So start with the all right. So let's see. October 31st. No, I don't know why I said 31st. October 23rd, 2019. And that's the night that Aniah went missing. And at 11:21, actually, let's start with him at 11:19. I'm going to have to do this in military time because it's going to confuse me if I don't, because I'm used to it. So if you have any questions about military time, just ask. All right, at 23:19. Yazeed entered the gas station. And I want to get this address quickly, because I want to map it all out as well, because that's where it's all going to come together as we're doing the timeline and mapping it out at the same time. All right, 456. All right. So on that night, October 23rd, 2019, at 11:19 p.m., Yazeed, the defendant, entered the Chevron gas station, which was located at 456 South College Street in Auburn. And then at 23:21, Aniah entered. And then yeah, Jennifer, it's the Chevron South College Street. Let's see. So then at 23:22, both exited. And I don't know if it matters necessarily, but I can't remember which one exited first. I want to say Aniah exited first, but I may be wrong. But again, it's not really that relevant at the moment, because they both exited within the same minute, according to the video. So then at 23:24, Aniah's vehicle was seen pulling in to the Murphy gas station, which I know that was on South College Street as well. Let me see what that address was. Actually, I think I got it. Okay, I just saw something. I want to backtrack just a tad. Because at 23:04, Yazeed's phone had its last communication and meaning at 11:04 p.m. that night was the last time Yazeed's phone was used for the rest of that night, as far as either him making a phone call, him accepting a phone call, or him sending a text or receiving a text and opening it. So that was the last time, and it was in it plotted at the Clarion Hotel for the rest of that night and next morning. So it didn't leave that hotel from 23:04. Well, it was at the hotel, the Clarion Hotel, at 23:04, and then it stayed there for the rest of the night. Never left and was never used again. Let me pull up the map so I don't get confused while we're doing this as well. Why can you not already have this crap done? That's the whole point of this tonight there, dude. You must have missed the first part. I've been driving 6 hours a day. And I left Macon County at 5 o'clock. And so I just got home not long ago. That's the whole reason we're doing this. Is I thought some may be interested in us going through this and doing this together. If you don't, then you don't have to watch it tonight. Let me create a new map.
right, so the Clarion Hotel is located at 1577. All right, I want to tag those on the map first. $24.16. And the Murphy gas station is at $24.16. South College Street. It's very exciting stuff, isn't it? It's not like I do it in the movies. All right. And at 23:47, Nia's phone was turned off and never came back on. 12:34. Anah's vehicle was seen on camera near 85. I think it's I-85 there in Auburn, isn't it? Near I-85, going toward Montgomery. Oh, I left out one. Let's see. 11:38. 23:38. Snapchat was sent from Aniah's account to her roommate. And right after Aniah sent that text, that Snapchat to her roommate, which stated, "Smoking a blunt, LOL." And again, according to Aniah's roommate's testimony, that was something that Aniah had never used the word blunt. And it's not something Aniah did. And so it completely threw her roommate off. And she's like, what? She thought she was playing with her. She just thought she was messing around. She's like, oh, okay, whatever. And she asked her who she was with. And she responded back, Eric. Well, she had never heard of an Eric either. And she said, who's Eric? And she said, just met him. And so, again, she's more thinking she's just messing around with me, because none of this was making any sense, because minutes earlier, Aniah had told her that she was about to be home. And anyway, it did spook her roommate enough to check her, because they always shared locations on their Snapchat with each other. And so she checked her location right after Aniah sent her that, and it was showing so around 11:38, Aniah's phone showing to be behind the Taco Bell on South College Street. Let me find that. And that's at 2027. South College Street. Hey, somebody on my team will y'all verify that address for that Chevron? Because I don't think it's there anymore, and I just want to make sure that is the correct address. If y'all can, I'm sure somebody has posted at one of the news stations or something, the address of that Chevron. Just make sure that that is the correct address, 456 South College Street. Okay, I didn't think that was right when I was looking at it on the map. Thank you. Or that 1339, are you saying, is that the Murphy or the Chevron? Okay, that's okay. Yeah, that 456 is not right. I knew it was too far away from that Clarion Hotel, but I got confused when I was looking it up because it's not there anymore. Delete that other one. Okay, there we go. You're saying the Murphy is 1717? I got that one wrong too. It's the 1339 is the correct Chevron because it's right beside. Let me make sure, but yeah, it's right beside the Clarion. That's why I didn't think the other one was right. Well, I don't know. I'm gonna have to verify. I think that's the right one. We'll figure it out. Here, I've got it in my notes somewhere. Let me look at it because that one is obviously pretty important. 1535. Let me see. I'm just not talking at the moment. All right, let's see. Where were we? We were at 1234. Okay, here we go. All right. College Street and East University Drive. Okay, it's not there anymore, but it's the one, it's right on the corner of South College Street and East University Drive. So, yeah, it's right beside the Chevron. So, anyway, I'm in the Clarion Hotel. So, let me mark that. There we go. Okay, we're good now. There we go. Okay. And then I think that's all the important places on that night, as far as that night. And either this week or next, I'm planning on going to Auburn and getting a video of all these locations. Just because I want to see them myself, number one. And then also take the route that we're about to go over. So all this is about to make a lot more sense. So let me get the map pulled up here in front of us. All right, hopefully y'all can all see that well. Okay. So to put all this in perspective, so here's the locations. This is an overview of the city of Auburn and the campus. And then as we zoom in, so the Chevron gas station where she was last seen, where she and Yazeed both entered and exited around 11:20 p.m. that night on October 23rd, is right here. The Clarion Hotel, which is where Yazeed's phone was and then stayed for the rest of the night and into the next day. And again, where his last communication from that cell phone was at 11:04 p.m., meaning it was not used again for the rest of that night. Now, according to that white girl's testimony that testified, Yazeed left his phone. He did, in fact, leave his phone at the Clarion Hotel. Now, this is, to me, so this is strange to me because he was already at the Chevron, obviously, when Aniah got there. And by the way, they confirmed there had never been any communication on either phone between Aniah and any of these people. So they did not know each other. But he left his phone at the hotel. So either he did that accidentally and was just running to the store and then saw her and changed his plans, or he premeditated this and his plan was to go hang out at the Chevron gas station until somebody came along that he could kidnap. Now, again, I don't know which one is correct, obviously, but it makes you think. Because, again, this guy is a career kidnapper. I mean, he's been arrested for literally kidnapping numerous times. So he's been through the system numerous times on this stuff. He knows not to take your cell phone anywhere. He knows it can be traced everywhere. But anyway, obviously he walked from the hotel because his van was parked at the hotel as well. And walked to the Chevron and then saw Aniah, and then somehow immediately ended up in the car with her. And then her vehicle jumps back on South College Street because they exited at 11:22. They exited the gas station. And then by 11:24, now this is a pretty short distance, and this is late at night, so probably no traffic. But by 11:24, her vehicle was pulling into this Murphy gas station, which is located right here. So you see the Murphy gas station, and then the Chevron is up here. So 2 minutes later, her vehicle is seen on security cameras pulling into this Murphy gas station, where Yazeed is seen exiting the passenger side, walking up to the window, because it's the Murphy gas stations, if you're not familiar, you don't go in them, you just walk up to the window. And then he immediately he purchased something and then immediately got back in the passenger side of her vehicle, and it pulled off. And on the camera, you can't see who was driving, and you can't see how many people was in the car. Yeah, Ashley, I think the building is still there. I just think the Chevron's not there anymore. So anyway, pulled in at 11:24, and just within 2 minutes, he was back in the car and it had pulled off again. Then at 11:38 p.m., is when her roommate checked her Snapchat location, and it was showing to be behind this Taco Bell, which is not too far from, it's in between the Murphy and the gas station. So we don't know what happened between 11:24 and at least 11:38. So you're talking about 14 minutes. Once it left the Murphy gas station, it was at the Taco Bell. Now, it could have been at the Taco Bell sooner. It's just that's when she checked the location. Then at 11:47, so 9 minutes later, after she checked her location and it was showing behind the Taco Bell, is when Aniah's phone was turned off and never came back on again. So this is pure speculation. Please understand, this is complete speculation on my part at this moment. But there's a possibility something bad happened to Aniah around this Taco Bell. Because again, 9 minutes later, her phone turned off and never came back on. And then at 12:34 a.m., which is about 45 minutes after her phone turned off, her car was seen in this same area on South College Street somewhere near I-85 on a tag reader camera. And again, on those cameras, you can't see who's inside a vehicle or anything. It just takes a picture of the car and the tag. But it was 100% Aniah's vehicle because it takes a really clear picture of the tag. Miranda, do we know if the phone was manually turned off or did it go dead? There's no way of knowing. because as far as I know, they never located the actual phone. But all this happened, just within about an hour, a little over an hour from the time Aniah walked into this Chevron gas station right here. And then her car was seen going towards Montgomery. I'm guessing it was getting on I-85. It's just the way that they worded it in testimony, and I'm sure they worded it like that because they don't want the public to know exactly where the camera is. But I'm guessing it was probably getting on the interstate because they said going towards Montgomery. Less, like I said, just a little, over an hour once she entered the Chevron. Now, we went over all that, and we'll get to the rest of the timeline, later on and stuff, but I wanted to, so we went over all that. Now, back to where actually, I forgot about all this. Okay, hold on. We can be more detailed. Of location, because that falls into this next part of where her phone was actually pinging during these times. And this is where, okay, yeah, so I was wrong on that. But this is where it's going to set in that, oh, wow, this is not a coincidence, and he was definitely involved. So around 11:35 p.m., her phone pinged going up. Let me find these roads. See Cox and then North on Wire Road. I saw Cox somewhere. Okay, here's Wire Road, and then this may not turn out like I had it in my head, but I think it will. We'll see. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it will. All right, so where is Cox? Let's just see. that's not it. I think it was Cox Avenue. Let's see where Cox Road shows. Here we go. So our vehicle was traveling up Cox Road here. Possibly, we're about to find out if I'm. That still may not be the right Cox because it has to run into wire. Okay, Lee Road and okay, yeah, it turns into wire. Okay, so her vehicle was traveling up this Cox Road right here, and then it takes a right onto Wire Road, which is this road. Well, it turns into wire. Then took a right off of Wire onto Shug Jordan Parkway right here. Then north. Okay, so her vehicle comes down this road, Shug Jordan Parkway, and then turns north back onto South College Street at 11:45 p.m. is when her car turns back onto South College Street right here. And I'm sorry, 11:46. Then at 11:47 p.m., right in front of the Clarion Hotel, is where her phone goes dead or is turned off. I'm guessing turned off and is never turned back on. And the Clarion Hotel is where he was staying and where his van was parked. So that's the part when they said that today, because I had my phone up going through the map as he was calling this out. And that's when it hit me when we got to the end of it. I was like, oh. So her phone turned off literally right at the time and location of the Clarion Hotel. So to me, when you put that information together with all the other evidence, I think this is the final nail. Again, I don't believe in coincidence, and that would be one hell of a coincidence. So again, if I hopefully I didn't confuse anyone, but let's go that route one more time. So her vehicle was traveling up Cox Road here. It turned right onto this Lee Road, Wire Road. Then made a right turn onto Shug Jordan Parkway. Then turned left, which would be north, here on South College Street 1 minute before her phone turned off and never came back on, which puts us right back where he was staying. So again, to me, that's pretty solid evidence. It's not a coincidence. And again, his phone was never communicated on again from 11:04 p.m. And it never left this hotel the rest of that night into the next day and was never communicated on again. So, and now what I'm about to say again is back to complete speculation on my part. But again, it's not a coincidence. They came back here for something, and how long they stayed, nobody know, or I don't know anyway. And then on in, when we move on now, if we want to move on to the next. And if you've been keeping up with the case or following me on my lives, we talked about Squirmy. And Squirmy got off work at 4:40 a.m. that morning. And then according to Squirmy's testimony, he then drove to Big Dad. Hold on, let me see. I can't remember what they call the guy. Let's go ahead and plot this while we're doing this. Now, where Aniah was located, and now we're talking over a month later, but where she was located was, let me get that address right quick. Jesus. It was at New Hope Church. I didn't realize the map showing like 5 different New Hope churches in the area, or between Montgomery and Auburn, anyway. Let's see, this one was on County Road 2. Let me find it. Baptist Church. Well, this address may be harder to find than I thought. I think the problem is going to be the road's going to have a name that they call it instead of County Road 2, apparently. And so I don't know. We may have to dig further into finding the exact one. So it runs between 85 and 29. See, 80. Must just be this 8. I don't know. No, that's not it. Oh, here we go. Okay. Union Springs. Here it is. Wow, that was way more complicated than I thought it was going to be. Hey, Gabby, how are you? All right, let's see. So, this church may not even be marked on the map. That's not it. Oh, yeah, maybe. Okay. The road may turn into that. No, that's over here. I don't know. I'll have to figure that out. I didn't realize there was going to be that many New Hope churches around there. Anyway, to put it in perspective, that church is somewhere off of this county road too, which runs through here. And then you see kind of in reference to where all this is in relation to Auburn. So you're not talking about too far away. But you go from the city, being in the city, to out here is the middle of nowhere. There, I mean, this is as rural as Alabama can get almost. So there's nothing. You see Montgomery, Auburn, and then it's kind of right in the middle. catch up on some comments. I don't know if I want to read some of these comments. What are y'all talking about? On TikTok, at least. My God. Yeah, I appreciate that, Sienna. Debbie, what do you want me to answer for y'all? Oh, thank you for the info, Amy. I'm sorry, I'm just now seeing that the these this comment section was hiding behind my map up here on my other monitor, and I didn't realize it. So I hadn't been seeing y'all's comments. He has pending charges. I don't know as far as when those trials are planned or if they're going to trial or anything like that. But yes, he has numerous previous charges. And from what I understand, he is also now the prime suspect, the main suspect in another capital. And I don't know any details about that one yet either, but I will keep up with all of it. That's a good question. Liz said, where was she shot at? Testimony today said the church, but all the blood in her car. How's that explained? So here's, as far as testimony went, she was definitely, oh, by the way, trigger warning, which hopefully that was implied through this whole thing. We're talking about a horrible thing here. But definitely about the, and I'm going to try to PG it as much as possible, but there's only so much I can do with it. So just fair warning. And I'm going to have to think of a tricky way to word this so TikTok doesn't kick me off either. So, she was definitely shot at the church where she was found, in the exact location she was found. And that one entered her head and then out. And then the spent bullet was down in the dirt, down in the ground under her. So that definitely happened. As far as the whatever happened in the car, so we know when they located the car, there was, from the way it was stated, a large quantity of blood on the passenger side of her car, and the passenger seat and the passenger seat floorboard. and it was hers. There was also a bullet that had been fired from inside the car and was stuck in the passenger side door. So, more likely than not, yes, she was shot in the car as well. The only problem with that and being able to determine if that was, if that as a fact, the state her body was in when it was located, there was not enough there for the pathologist to know if she was shot anywhere else. Again, I don't want to get into many details and go over that as far as the state her body was in, but hopefully that makes sense. So to answer your question, yeah, more than likely she was shot in the vehicle. And then God, I hate talking about this stuff. We'll just leave it at that. So, we don't know if she was still alive when they got to the church. According to Squirmy's testimony, which is who was allegedly with the defendant, Yazeed, when they took her to the church, and Yazeed took her back in the woods and dropped her, she was in the back of the truck on the way there, wrapped up in a comforter. So if that's true, then more than likely she was not alive by the time they got to the church. So, but again, we know what happened when they got to the church for sure. So I don't know if, obviously, we don't know if she was possibly still alive barely or something. We don't know. I mean, hopefully she was not. And maybe, I don't know. I don't know why the other shot was taken there. But yeah, there's quite a bit of evidence pointing that she was shot in the vehicle before that. Have they determined where the comforter came from? I don't think so. Now they located the comforter, and it was back at that. What's the guy's name? Let's see, there's a junior and then there's a third. So David Johnson the third, but it was at his father's house. So David Johnson Jr.'s house. And that's, so according to Squirmy's testimony, he got off work, and we do know he got off work, or what did I say was the timeline? 4:40 a.m. He got off work, and he worked at Honda there in Montgomery. And then when he got off work, he went to David Johnson II, or David Johnson Jr.'s house. And when he was there, Yazeed was there, or Yazeed showed up and asked to borrow David Johnson Jr.'s truck. And Junior told Squirmy to drive his truck, and Yazeed could ride with him since Yazeed wanted to borrow the truck. I don't know if he didn't trust Yazeed to bring his truck back or didn't want him driving it. I don't know. And then according to Squirmy, he had already taken a bar. And again, I'm trying to use words that TikTok don't keep me off with, but most of you know what that is. He took a bar, he took a perk, and smoked a blunt. And so then at some point, once they got the truck, he pulled over because he was about to pass out and let Yazeed drive, and then he passed out in the passenger seat. Again, that's according to his testimony. And when he woke up, they were parked behind this truck. This church. And he looked out the back window and he sees Yazeed pulling that comforter off the back of the truck, and he sees 2 feet hanging out of it. And according to him, that's the first time he realized what they had. Now, again, who knows if that's true, but I'm just telling you what his testimony was. And then Yazeed goes in the woods there and then comes back out and throws the comforter in the back of the truck. And then, anyway, the comforter was at some point located by police at Junior's house in the trash can outside. But as far as where it came from, I don't know that was, I don't know if they said that or not. They may have, and I missed it. Again, we're talking, there's been 20, let's see how many, there's been well over 20 witnesses testify. So it starts running together on me, and to save me from having to go back through all these notes again. But you get the point. Cody asked, did the church have cameras? No, I don't think so. No, this is a very small country church out in the middle of nowhere. Is it true they have a few more witnesses before closing statements tomorrow? No, because they closed. They rested. The state rested today, and the defense. So yeah, no more witnesses. As I read the testimony today, it made me, it made me so sick to my stomach. Yeah, no, it was horrible. It was horrible. And then just to go over, so if you missed it a while ago, I went through the map and plotted everywhere her phone plotted on that night and the roads they turned on. And right at the time they got back into pretty much right in front of the Clarion Hotel, which is where Yazeed was staying, is when her phone is turned off and never comes back on. So again, that's not a coincidence. And then, so we have that, and that's pretty good evidence. Then we have Yazeed seen walking out of the Chevron right after Aniah did. And then I think what they said, so Yazeed was already in the gas station when Aniah walked in, and he pretty much didn't take his eyes off of her the whole time. And then she walks out, he walks out behind her. And then literally 2 minutes later, her car pulls into the Murphy gas station, which is right down the road, and Yazeed gets out of the passenger seat. and then gets back in the passenger side. So, honestly, if I had to bet on it, and again, this is pure speculation on my part, please understand that. It's hard for me to believe he was by himself because I can't understand. It doesn't make sense. But again, that she would not pull off when they were at the Murphy gas station. But again, actually, I shouldn't say it doesn't make sense. We don't know what he had said to her. We don't know what he had threatened her. We don't know. And so I can't say it doesn't make sense because they're talking about a 19-year-old girl that was probably scared. I mean, I'm sure she was. And I've already put the trigger warning out. So, but according to her family and friends and roommates, her worst fear was getting kidnapped. But she's always talking about it and always worried about it. So I'm sure she was in complete literal shock when this man jumps in the vehicle with her, or however it happened. He's an evil monster. And I'll read you one note that I made today. As I've mentioned and a couple other people have mentioned, the testimony today was horrible. It was is just as bad as it gets. The forensic anthropologist and the pathologist testifying to the state her body was in when it was located. And again, just horrible stuff. And I was looking around the courtroom, and there were numerous people just everywhere wiping their eyes. That's how bad it was. Just people everywhere kind of having wiped tears from their eyes. And you could look around, and everybody's face in there was just shock and just, disbelief. And this is the note I took. Because as I'm looking around and seeing all of this, I look at him. And I wrote, suspect has no emotion at all. None. And I wrote none in all caps. Almost everyone within the audience is showing emotion at this time. Many I see are constantly wiping tears from their face. And he showed zero emotion. Nothing. I don't know. There is something wrong with you if you can sit through that and listen to that and show nothing. That alone tells me all I need to know about him. Because he was the only, I'm telling you, I looked around. He was the only one. And nothing. You would think his attorneys, and I know this is going to sound horrible, but this is the way the real world works. Most of the time, the attorneys will even tell them, pretend like you're crying, something, because they want to put on a show for the jury. But I don't know if they just didn't say anything to him or if they did and he still couldn't show him. I don't know, but there was nothing. I'm telling you, you can ask anybody there that was watching him, nothing. It was crazy. No, Sienna, there's nothing linking them to knowing her or anything. And again, with Yazeed's past and his past kidnappings, he didn't know any of the victims. I mean, he's literally that guy that's been out lurking around kidnapping people. And again, the fact that he wasn't in prison or at least jail on no bond from the indictments he was under already falls completely on the justice system for why her life was taken, because he should not have been out under any circumstance. And this is something that I would and if you've been following me for a while, you know I normally say this is one of those, where I tell you always be aware of your surroundings. Keep your guard up, especially at night, no matter where you are. Don't make yourself a soft target, blah, 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 all that stuff. But then I would also say, but the chances of just a complete stranger coming and kidnapping you are slim to none, because they are. It doesn't happen very often. I mean, it's a rare thing. But this does show that just because it's extremely rare doesn't mean it can't happen to you, because it's going to happen to somebody, because it does happen again, even though it's really rare. And so you want to take all the precautions that you possibly can. Now there's also, I don't mean to sound like this, but I feel like I need to just say it because it's the truth. You could also be doing everything you're supposed to be doing and should be, and something bad still happened to you. That's just a fact. But the chances are a lot less. But the reason I want to say that, I didn't want anyone to think I was implying that Aniah did something wrong that night, because that is not what I was trying to say at all whatsoever. I just wanted to bring it up that this is an example of something that rarely happens, but it absolutely can. And you always want to, again, and this applies to everything. We talked about this a lot with the recent attacks, all the Islamist attacks that we've had. Be aware of your surroundings. Stay on guard. Look around. Don't be looking down at your phone. Don't just be lollygagging around. Don't make yourself an easy target. And also, be looking out for things that stand out, things that don't look right. And that way, if you see something strange, then you can tell somebody. Again, you could save your life, or in these attacks, you could save thousands of people's lives, literally just by being aware of your surroundings and seeing something that don't add up to you, and you telling the authorities. I mean, that's how easy it could happen for you to stop a plot and to save thousands of lives. I mean, that's just a fact. My girls and her friends stalk each other on Live 360. I don't know how they live like that. Yeah. And that's a good thing. And that's the thing. Aniah and her roommate did the same thing. And according to her family and friends, that's exactly why she shared her location with her roommate and everybody else that she did, because this was a fear of hers. Well, it's just horrible. But that is a good point. Everybody, you need to be sharing your location with somebody. And ideally multiple people. I've also talked about, and I go over it in some of my videos that I've just put on Patreon. I don't have Patreon up yet, but it's going to be ASAP. But I go over some of the apps, and I'm not promoting any particular app. There's different ones. But you can look up some of them. But there's apps that you can download on your phone that you can, when you're walking across a parking lot by yourself late at night or not, whatever, you can hit the app on, and it automatically starts recording audio and video from your phone. And then there's another button you can press that will immediately send. You can have preset emergency contacts in there, and you can hit that button, and it will send the video, audio, and your exact location to all these people that you preset right in real time. And you can also set it to send to the lowest to the what was I saying? To the closest 911 center as well. So those apps exist. So make sure you look into those and have that they could save your life. But there's a lot of really neat apps like that. So keep those things in mind. And then, as I've always said, keep some type of weapon. It doesn't have to be a firearm if you're not comfortable with firearms, but some type of weapon. Anything to make you a hard target. But just looking up and being aware of your surroundings makes you a harder target, because these predators, they're going to go for the softest target. And if there's one person over here walking around and looking around everywhere, got their phone up, and then the other person's over here looking down at their phone, just lollygagging around the parking lot, who are they going to go after? The one not paying any attention, looking down at their phone. Yeah, but one of my pet peeves is seeing people walking, especially like I said, at night, things like that. But really anywhere out in public when there's a lot of people around, cars or whatever, and they're walking around looking down at their phone, just scrolling or something, like walking across the parking lot or anywhere. Like I said, it drives me insane. Like, put your phone up and be present where you are. Be aware of your surroundings. Anybody could be a victim, Kathy. Yeah, absolutely. It's not just younger girls. Anybody could be a victim. Again, if you make yourself a soft target, you could be a victim. The harder the target you are, the less likely somebody's going to try to attack you. Hey, that's a good point. Katie just said, and I lock my vehicle when refueling so no one can jump in the passenger side. That's a great point. And I think I talked about this on live in the last few weeks. When I worked in the Shoals area, we had a guy up there. That's exactly what he would do. And it happened a few times it was at the Murphy gas station there in Muscle Shoals, off of Avalon Avenue, if you're familiar with the area, in front of the Walmart. But a few different victims, they would be sitting in their car, and this guy would just jump in the passenger side seat. And sometimes he would pull a weapon on them. Sometimes he would just ask them for money and threaten them with his words or something. But he did it quite a few times. And that's what he would do. Somebody just be sitting there, again, probably looking down on their phone, scrolling, whatever, and doors unlocked, and he'd just hop in. But that's a really good point, Katie. Thank you, Sophie. I appreciate that. Yeah, try to be mindful when you go to the gas stations, especially if you're a female or a smaller guy. I mean, anyone or older, whatever. Try to be mindful when you go to the gas stations and try to, again, like Katie just said, try to do that during the day if possible. I know sometimes it's not, but when it is possible, try to think ahead about things like that where you're not having to stop later at night at a gas station or go into a grocery store later at night, or any kind of store where you're walking across a parking lot, anything like that. If you do have to do those things, again, be aware of your surroundings, be on guard, have some type of weapon at the ready. And what I mean by at the ready, I mean either in your hand or you've practiced getting it in your hand very quickly. And I say this, I put this on a lot of the safety videos that I do. I remember talking about it, I think, in the elevator safety when I did, and parking lot and stuff like that. But especially for females, most of you have a purse. And so you could be standing in an elevator or anywhere, and if you start feeling uncomfortable, whatever weapon you have could be in your purse, and you just have your hand stuck down in there. Nobody can see what's in your hand. But you could have, whether it's a firearm or a pointy object, mace, anything, but already have it in your hand. And the same thing goes if you're walking across the parking lot. Be looking around and have your hand on it, because this stuff happens so fast. When this stuff happens, I'm telling you, it happens so fast, you don't have time to think. And that's why I always say my biggest rule of thumb, a weapon needs to be on your person. not in your purse. And so let me be clear of what I'm saying here. It needs to be on your person. But if you're somewhere where you're just not feeling comfortable or whatever, you can have it out in your hand and just stick your hand with that down in your purse where nobody can see it. So you're not causing, you're not walking across a parking lot or sitting in an elevator with the weapon in your hand out, but you can have your hand on it. But again, you're not going to have time to think. So your weapon needs to be on you. And this is the thing, so many females for sure, because they have their purse, they think it's just as good to have that firearm in their purse. It's not. You need to have it on you. Unless you are really, really good and practice tons of, and it has an actual, I know there's some purses that are actually built for that. And so if you practice that, then that's different. But most are not like that. And if you just have it thrown down in there, you're not going to have a chance to get that when shit hits the fan. It's going to happen so fast. Your muscle memory has to be there. Last night, a dude driving through Kroger asked me for money. As I walked in, I stopped and looked directly his face, told him to wait till I come out. Then I got him able to escort me out in my car. Yeah, no, that's good. And that's another thing. With these people that walk around asking for money, don't show them any attention. I know people feel sorry for them, and I understand that. And some of them really do need, but you don't, I'm telling you, don't show them any attention. I don't care where I am. If somebody walks up, hey, you got $2 or whatever, I look at them, I say, get away from me. And that lets them know, okay, not messing. And it's not because I don't want to give them money, because I'd love to. It's just, I know that 99% of them, what they're using the money for, and or they don't even really need the money. Most of the ones standing on the corners, I'm telling you, I've seen this so many times where, what do they call it? They call it, I've heard them call it, they call it throwing a sign. And it's the people that sit up there with these signs, hey, I'm homeless, whatever. And then, I've watched them walk to a nice vehicle, park down the street, and get in it, and then drive to their home. Some of them are legit homeless, but I'm telling you, most of those people are not really homeless. The amount of times that when I was in narcotics and I'd have an informant, because I'd have tons of informants, and I'd pull up to a red light and I'd look over to my left and it'd be one of my informants sitting there holding a sign. And I would start cussing. I'm like, what you have a house, you have a car. They just don't want to work. And they make good money at it. I've had some tell me they'd make a couple $1,000 a day in cash doing that. So my point is, don't roll your window down for those people. Make sure your doors are locked. Keep an eye, watch them while you're sitting at the stoplight or anything, because they could be up to worse. But I'm telling you, most of them are not homeless. It used to be a running joke that we would have in my unit of how many, again, we would be driving around somewhere and somebody'd see one of our informants would be sitting there almost all the time. And it's like, what are you doing? I remember getting off an exit in Birmingham to get gas on the way to Circus. My friend was in the car with the kids, and we was informed to get out of there quickly. Yeah, no, there's some places that you don't need to stop at night. There's some places I don't stop at night. I mean, if you're familiar with the Birmingham, Alabama area and Inslee, I'm not. You're not going to catch me stopping at Inslee at night. I was working me and a was a federal agent with me. One night was sitting surveillance in a vehicle in Inslee, and these two guys come up and tried to rob us, pulled weapons on us because they didn't know we were police. But we were sitting there. That happened. So there are places like that. But yeah, I mean, be aware again, and that's part of being aware of your surroundings. Be aware of where you're stopping, things like that. And that's why it's important, especially when taking trips and stuff, to plan where you're going to stop and get gas and stuff like that at, because you don't want to end up in a bad area somewhere that you just didn't realize and somewhere you don't need to be. Oh yeah, those people will bring kids out with them too. And that there's not much that more pisses me off than that when I see that. And when I was working, when I would see them with children, a very quick way to get them in their car and back to their house is you're homeless and you have these children. Well, I'm going to have to call DHR and they're going to come get you because they're not going to let kids be home. No, actually, we have a house, and then they'd take us to their house. I'm telling you, I've had that happen at least 3 times, I would say, at least. That exact thing. But yeah, most of them are not homeless. But now also keep in mind, I know we're talking about bad areas, but for instance, this place where Aniah was taken was not a bad area at all. It was in a good area of a college town. So you don't let your guard down no matter where you are. Again, you want to know where you are and try to make sure you're not stopping in the bad areas, but no matter where you are, you have to keep your guard up. Yeah, Denim, they always have a dog with them too. And I always feel way worse for the dog, in all seriousness. And then if somebody grabs you or whatever the case is, you fight and you don't stop fighting. If someone is trying to take you from the location you're at to another location, when you get to that location with them, nothing good's going to happen. There's a reason they're taking you out of your comfort zone over where you are and wanting to take you to their comfort zone. And they're taking you there for really bad reasons. And so no matter what they tell you, you fight and you do everything you possibly can in order for them to not be able to take you from where you are to somewhere else. No, I'm telling, that's as real as it is. You fight, you scream, no matter what. Again, I don't care if they're pointing a firearm at your head. Okay, you hear me? I don't care if they're pointing. This is not the movies. I don't care if they're pointing a firearm at your head. You fight, you run, you scream. You do not let them take you from where you are somewhere else. And there's been a couple incidents in the last few years. I remember, and I think I got the video somewhere, but a woman, I want to say it was in Florida maybe, where the woman was grabbed, and it's on video. This guy comes up behind her and grabs her, and he's trying to put her in his truck, and she fights and she fights and she gets away. But she was fighting, screaming. I mean, everything. Yet that's what you do. But again, I don't care if they're holding a weapon to you. You do not give in to their commands. You fight, because I'm telling you, once they get you to where they're going to take you, it's going to happen anyway. Your chance for survival, your only chance for survival in that situation is to not let them take you from there. So you fight, you scream, whatever you have to do. Again, this is not the movies where you see them and they pull a weapon on them and they say, get in the car and don't talk or whatever. No, this is not the movies. Bake shop, they did not know each other. They didn't. And on the video, like, she doesn't look at him. She doesn't say hey or any, like, because they see they're in the gas station together. And she doesn't say anything to him. She doesn't look towards him. I mean, they did not know each other. Yeah, you can send me a message. Aniah's mom travels doing self-defense classes now aimed towards women. Yeah, Aniah's mother, Angela, is doing a lot of good work. She's doing a lot. But also, don't be naive and think you can take a couple of classes like that and you're Superman. Because that's not the case. Now, I'm not saying don't take those classes. Please don't misunderstand me. Anything you can do and train, you need to do. Just don't get comfortable with that and think you're going to be able to get out of any situation taking some classes. Jiu-jitsu, like people that's good at jiu-jitsu, these MMA fighters that actually could fight anybody or whatever, they train for years and years and years. And that's how much training it takes to be an expert in that and to be that good. But again, I'm not saying don't take those. Please don't misunderstand me. I just don't want you to get the false sense of security from doing those things. Yeah, if you have a chance to go to any classes like that, go to them. For sure. But make sure you vet where you're going and who you're taking classes from. Because that makes me think of if you've been following me a while, the fake black belt guy that was operating in North Alabama. that did not know what he's lying about everything, does not know what he's doing, and was not teaching correct things to anybody. He was just stealing money from people pretty much. But yeah, make sure that you vet who you're, and I've said that numerous times as well as firearm training as well. Don't just see someone offering firearm training classes and just go. Check their resume out, verify it, make sure, ask some people that's been, or ask some people that knows them, or ask someone that is an expert in that, and say, hey, I was looking at this class or this guy or this girl, whatever. Do you know anything about them? And they can vet them for you, something like that. Just don't, again, it doesn't matter how nice their website looks. It doesn't matter how good they are at talking. Make sure you vet them before paying someone to go to any kind of class. A lot of people, I've seen some of these YouTube videos of these people teaching some of this stuff is literal comedy. And people are paying them literal comedy. So be careful with that. Yeah, his name was David Lang. And I'll not anytime soon, obviously. But at some point I'll get with Angela and find out the details of that class and all that stuff, and I'll put that out. Again, it'll be a little bit. And if you're going to carry a firearm, my rule of thumb, you absolutely, no matter what, have to put at least, this is the lowest standard, at least 1,000 rounds a year through that. At least. And if you're not willing to do that or not able to do that, do not carry a firearm. I can't be more clear on that, okay? You have to train a lot. Again, and 1,000 rounds is not a lot. Again, I suggest at least 5,000 rounds, but 1,000 is the minimum. And then also make sure you're practicing wherever you keep that weapon, like I said, and you want to keep it on you, you're practicing drawing that every single day. Again, if that's not something you're willing to do or able to do, then don't carry it. Yeah, I'll check it out, Bake Shop. Do I know who the last witness was? 2 p.m. Yeah. It was a FBI agent. If we're talking about today. Yeah, James Burney, FBI special agent with the CAS team. Who was the Corey Richards again? Remind me. Any updates on that, Guthrie? No, but we're going to talk about that sheriff again very soon. There's a woman on TikTok that teaches women. Sorry, I can't think of her name. Yeah, and if anytime y'all see someone like that, send it to me and where I can check them out to make sure they actually know what they're talking about. Because again, I've seen so many, especially on TikTok. They're just literally pretending and making things up, and that can be dangerous, obviously. Do I know where the guy was from that kidnapped Aniah? He's from that area, the Auburn area, or I don't know if he's originally from that area, but that's where he hangs. Montgomery, between Montgomery and Auburn, is where he's been around for a while. When do I expect a verdict? If they get closing arguments finished tomorrow, which they probably will, because they're not starting until noon. Because in the morning the judge they've got things that they have to go over with the attorneys and stuff. But the jury's coming back at noon, and that's when they're going to start. They'll start the closing arguments. If they get finished with those tomorrow, what's tomorrow? Tuesday. I mean, I would hope they would have a verdict by Wednesday evening, but that may be wishful thinking. Because it's always possible in a case like this, they may not have a verdict till next Wednesday. I don't see it going that long because, again, it's pretty clear. But you never know. Depends on the jury. But I would hope at least Thursday sometime. But again, I could be wrong for sure. You've been watching Desert Law. Oh, I still haven't watched that. I forgot about that till you brought it up. Was Corey Richards the one where her boyfriend was testifying? Because she had a boyfriend? And then there was a video of, is this the same case? There was a video of her at her house, like the day after her husband died, and her friends and family was literally throwing a party. This man in Squirmy has pages of charges. Oh yeah, no, they're not good individuals. They're not good for society, either one of them, that's for sure. Nancy, yeah, as far as I know, he was born in the United States. Has this guy had anyone testify on his behalf? No, the defense didn't call any witnesses. She poisoned him and then wrote a book, children's book about grieving. Is this the same one I'm talking about too, though? Or am I thinking about a different case? Did she have a boyfriend on the side? And then again, I saw that video the other day where they were partying at her house. Okay, so yeah, it's the same one. Um, yeah. Now, as far as that, right quick, and then I'll get back on answering some of these questions about Yazeed. Um, the video where they were literally throwing a party, uh, shotgunning beers, the day after he died, like that was not grieving in any way whatsoever. That was a big, like that was an all out part. Like they were loving life. That was weird. Um, that was weird. You could just showed me that video and I said, yeah, she was behind him losing his life. So what is the defense saying? So back on the Yazeed trial, honestly, not really nothing much. They don't have much that they can say. Their biggest, I think the biggest thing they've been trying to imply is that Squirmy is who did everything. And I definitely could not say he's not more involved than he says. It would not surprise me if he is. But he was not involved in taking her. And everything that happened to her, as far as we know, and what the evidence points to, she was badly, at least badly injured before he even got off work. So now again, did he participate more and did he know what they were doing and all? That's very possible. Did he get out of the truck at the church? Did he help him take? All that's very possible. But as far as initiating everything, and that was all Yazeed. Do I know the Blanchard family well? Or I just know since I've started doing this, which has been, let's see, July will be a year. I've had a lot of conversations with Aniah's mother, Angela, just about other cases and things like that, and we've talked a lot, just like through messages and text. So that's it. And I know how amazing of a person she is, and all the work she's doing and everything she has done, and I have tons of respect for her, so much respect for her. Yeah, like I said, I don't. I mean, Squirmy's not innocent. That's for sure. But again, sitting through all the testimony and seeing all the evidence and hearing all the evidence now, I think the most he could have been involved was, again, the disposing of her body, and I do think he was probably more involved in that than he's saying, for sure. But again, my theory is she was not alive by 4 a.m. Or if she was barely, but I don't think she was. Yeah, I'm in Tuscaloosa. But I'll travel to a lot of different cases and stuff. Pretty much no matter where they are. If it's something I'm covering. What threw me off with the evidence today was the inner exit of the bullet. Yeah, well, I knew. I mean, that had been said previous in the week. I don't remember exactly by who, but or I knew that had happened anyway. And no, I mean it does throw it off a little bit because again, with all the evidence in her car, all the blood in there, and then the bullet that was obviously fired from inside the car and ended in the passenger side door. I mean, definitely more likely than not, she was shot in the vehicle. And whether, and that's what I said a while ago. I don't know. That does, I hope she was not alive by the time they got to the church. And maybe, I mean, he's evil. I mean, he may have just done that final shot just because he's a monster. I mean, honestly, that's very possible. Oh, now if you're talking about, okay, I think I see what you're saying. The one through her head, that happened where she was found. Like the forensic anthropologist today said that, and the pathologist said that where she was laying, where her body was found, that's where that shot occurred because it went in and then out, and then it was down in the dirt, like down in the ground. So that shot didn't occur in the car. That one occurred there again, and that's why. And as far as her being shot in the vehicle, there's all the evidence is there to say she was, as far as tons of blood and it was all on the passenger side, and then the bullet, the spent bullet, was found in the passenger side door where it had been fired from inside the car. But unfortunately, the state that that she was in when she was located, there wasn't enough of her there to be able to know if she was shot anywhere else. What vibes am I getting from the jury? I mean, they're all human. Again, when they're talking about horrible stuff, you can kind of see them all, making the bad faces just like everybody else in there. They're all doing a pretty good job at keeping composed and not really, not showing a lot of reaction. But I've not noticed anything as far as like some of them with skeptic looks when they're talking about, evidence and stuff. But you never know how a jury's going to go. Because on a jury, a lot of times it's whoever the alpha is, and they're good at talking. They can talk everybody else into believing the exact same thing they are. And so you never really know for sure. But again, you could read the news articles, and if I just read the news articles and I had not been there, I would be worried. I'd be like, man, I don't know. They might not find him guilty. But being there, it's nothing like the news is. Again, it's nothing like that. The defense has not had much. Again, they haven't had much. Their main argument, again, is that Squirmy was the main one. And there's evidence to show that is not the case. And there's just so much evidence pointing towards Yazeed. So again, I don't think there's going to be a question of now. It's always a possibility that he ends up getting life without instead of the death penalty. That's definitely a toss up, which some people would argue that's better because you don't have the same appeals that you have if he gets the death sentence. And that makes sense from certain points of view for sure. So, but I do think he's going to be found guilty. Actually, he and Squirmy are reportedly not tight. They didn't even know each other. But this David Johnson Jr. sounds like he runs the show. It kind of sounds like this is an overemphasis, but a mob boss. Not that they have something like that, but it's just like it seems like the Squirmy. Everybody, his house was the place. I'm guessing he was the main dealer, and his house was the hub for all of them. But it kind of sounds like Squirmy's there. Yazeed shows up wanting to borrow a truck, and David's just kind of ordering people around. So Squirmy drive him, here. Kind of the sense I've gotten from it. Squirmy and Yazeed. No, Squirmy. No, I don't think Squirmy's been charged with any other kidnappings. How long ago did this happen? It happened in 2019. Yeah, I don't think Squirmy's been involved. I don't think Squirmy's been charged with another case involving Yazeed. From my understanding, Squirmy had a conviction back in the early 2000s, and he went to prison for a while for that, and he hasn't had anything violent since then. Now, I could be wrong, but that's what was being said. But I'll look into that because I've not verified Squirmy's past, but that's what was said in court. So I would think if he had more that the defense would have brought that up. But again, I will verify because I could be wrong. Why does it take so long for these families to get justice and trials? It shouldn't take this long. You know, they blame it on, they're blaming this on COVID. COVID's been over for 3 years. It shouldn't take this long. Oh, you live in that area. Okay. Yeah, that's what happens. The defense usually keeps on filing for extensions, and the judges keep giving them to them all the time. I've never understood that. I've had some cases where I was the case agent of that. It was, years before we went to trial. I've had some that was 8-9 years. Not many, but I've had some that did a long time, and it's because the defense kept what they want to do. They want to keep pushing it out, hoping that eventually the prosecutors will just give in and say, "We're tired of fooling with this. Here's the deal." That's what they do. That's why they do it. I followed this case like Aniah was a relation to me. Yeah, and a lot of people are because it's just it's absolutely horrible. If I was a juror, do I think I would find him guilty based off of the evidence presented? Yes, I do. But I also know a lot of other things, so I don't think I could say that without any bias, to be honest. I definitely think I would, but also know his past, and they don't. So that has some bearing on my, decision, obviously. So much awareness can be raised via this case. Yeah, and again, that's what Aniah's mother has done. She's done an amazing job, and her whole family. Her mom has spearheaded it all, but I know her dad and stepmother has been heavily involved in all of it too, and of course her stepdad. They've all been heavily involved in bringing a lot of awareness to this and help and getting that law in so fast and getting it passed so fast. It's amazing. They've done amazing work. Again, they're amazing people, and there's no telling how many people's lives they've saved just by immediately going, look, we're not going to let this happen to somebody else's family. And they did what they needed to do to make sure of that. But I need to go. I got another long day of tomorrow. And I don't know if I'll go live tomorrow night. I'll definitely be back Wednesday night. And remember, give myself a shout out here. Wednesday, make sure you're subscribed to Chris Hansen's podcast. And you can find it on anywhere you find podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all those. And his episode where I was a guest on, his podcast is supposed to be released this Wednesday, unless something changes, but that's what I was told. That's last I heard. So make sure you are looking out for that and check that out when it hits. If you've been following me for a while, you'll enjoy that, the case that we're talking about, for sure. But make sure y'all check that out. And again, that's supposed to come out Wednesday. But once it does come out, I'll put it out as well. But then again, obviously, I'll be back Wednesday night, and we'll talk about the trial some more. And we may have a verdict by then, we may not. Again, no way of knowing yet. But we'll see how tomorrow goes. But I hope you all have a great rest of your night. And I appreciate each and every one of you being on here. I truly mean that. It means a lot to me. And I appreciate all your support. And if there's anything I can do for any of you, don't hesitate to message me. It may take me a while to get to your message, but at some point I will. And if you're not following, please follow, subscribe, whichever platform you're on. And if you're new, make sure you check out my full podcast. I do a full podcast, and you can find it on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and Rumble. And it's Agent D Baker. Pretty easy to find.
Welcome back to Truth or Recon. I'm Agent D Baker, a retired narcotics detective, SWAT team member, and U.S. Navy combat veteran of OEF and OIF. With years of real-world experience in high-stakes environments, I have seen firsthand the dangers that lurk both in our communities and now increasingly online. These conversations can get raw, they can get heavy, and sometimes they may not be suitable for children, so consider this your disclaimer. But if you care about truth, justice, and accountability, then you're in the right